After what feels like the longest time since we've gotten any new information, Ubisoft just dropped the story trailer for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I can't wait to dive into this thing with you guys. Before we do, make sure you check out the trailer for yourselves, link in the description below.
You intrigue me, Wolf-Kissed. Orphan and sibling, warrior and poet. You are many in one, it seems.
Eivor!
Sigurd! I missed you, brother.
In the beginning, we get some narration from an unknown character. I'm not actually sure who this is, but they describe Eivor's many talents, the many facets of his personality and his character. But he refers to Eivor as the Wolf-Kissed. He's got some kind of reputation around this nickname that we don't quite understand yet, but he also calls him an orphan and a sibling. Now, we actually have a lot more information about Eivor's family coming from a Ubisoft interview posted on their website. Big thanks to Matthew for sharing this before I uploaded this video. Darby explains that Sigurd is Eivor's brother by adoption. After the death of Eivor's parents at a young age, Eivor was taken in by Sigurd's father, King Styrbjorn of Forburg. As was custom among the Norse, Eivor was raised as one of Styrbjorn's children, with no differentiation made between blood relatives and adopted relations. Sigurd is 5 years Eivor's senior and has helped mold Eivor into the warrior we know today. As the son of a king, Sigurd expects to follow in his father's footsteps and lead their clan with Eivor at his right hand. Sigurd is a proud and charismatic man full of confidence and the desire for adventure, but there's a darker side to him as well, one that begins to trouble Eivor as our story moves forward. We don't even get to see that in the trailer. That is some really good information, but pretty much Sigurd is an older brother to Eivor, a mentor, and we get to see that in the trailer. Other details worth pointing out, we see some great shots of Norway. I'm really excited to explore this region. It looks gorgeous, but I wanted to point out that Eivor is kissing this person because when I asked Darby McDevitt about the nature of relationships in Valhalla, he said this.
Not with him. He's more of a one-night stand, but there are longer-term relationships in the game, yeah.
That was in reference to Broder, the character that Eivor could sleep with during Oswald's wedding in Elmenham. But this person here could very well be a long-term love interest for Eivor. We get to see this assassin little cave hideout. We'll talk more about them later, but I wanted to pause here because this is our best look at the Raven clan's sort of home base in Norway. We saw it heavily featured in the cinematic version, but it's great to see this thing in action up close. One more detail before we move on, Eivor's head is not shaved here. This is the left side of his head, but we also see it on the right side earlier in the trailer. So something happens where Eivor decides, I'm gonna go ahead and shave my head, and I'm pretty sure it's their decision to conquer England.
Randvi, your husband returns, bringing gifts and riches to share.
And new friends, I see.
We learn about Randvi here, who is Sigurd's wife, and we've seen her before. At the first Ubisoft Forward, she's showing Eivor and Sigurd the alliance map, which will show us our allies and new opportunities to take over in England. But most importantly, we see how Eivor comes into contact with the Hidden Blade and the assassins. Sigurd went on some kind of raid and returned with this Levantine assassin. And thanks to the Twitter accounts by many Ubisoft developers, we now know this hidden one as Basim. Thanks to the Codex Network on Twitter, we learned that Basim in Arabic means the one who smiles, or the one with the remarkable smile, and we see Basim smiling a lot in this trailer. Darby gives us some more insight about Sigurd's journey from that interview on Ubisoft's website. He says in the early hours of the game, Sigurd returns from a long voyage that has taken him to Constantinople and back. It was in that city that he met and befriended the Hidden Ones and learned of their many customs. Of particular interest to him was the Hidden One's wrist blade, one of which he gifts to Eivor. Gift giving was an important custom among the Norse, and it is through this exchange we see how deeply Sigurd respects Eivor. As for what the Hidden Ones think about this gift exchange, you'll have to play the game to find out. There is just so much information there that we could dive into and talk about. I'll save those for later videos. Let's continue on with the trailer.
We cannot stay in Norway, not without fueling more war. So we push forward. A new kingdom awaits.
From here to Valhalla, I will always be on your side, Sigurd. Always.
Like every Assassin's Creed game, we always knew that the motivation to conquer England would be the same as it was in history. The Vikings needed somewhere to settle because the wars in Norway were getting out of control, and we hear from Sigurd here that that is indeed why they're doing it in Valhalla. But here we see Basim hanging out in the background. The Hidden Ones have a vested interest in supporting the Vikings' cause, and we'll hear directly from Basim later in the trailer. It looks like the Raven clan is gathering for a thing in their longhouse, and if you know anything about, Viking history, this was an assembly. It was used to resolve political disputes and other matters of government, and it's so cool to see that play out in the game. Again, we see Eivor speaking directly to big brother Sigurd and basically saying, I'm completely loyal. Whatever you want to do, Sigurd, I'm going to do it. And that is his motivation for going to England. Also, while I realize this is a cutscene, Eivor looks great here. The facial animation, the detail, the textures look incredible. I'm really happy to see the game looking like this.
Eivor, Sigurd, I give you England.
This land already has many rulers. From the cunning King Alfred of Wessex to the warmongering sons of Ragnar Lothbrok. They have no wish to share the kingdoms they have made their own.
We see Eivor and the clan making the journey across the sea to England, and we get a lot more background information about what they're facing from Randri. We see the alliance map again. This is going to be a huge gameplay mechanic that we access via our settlement. But we need to focus on these factions because Randri specifically lists two of them, King Alfred of Wessex and the Sons of Ragnar. Darby McDevitt gives us even more insights from that interview. I'll just read straight from him. Alfred is the proud and powerful king of Wessex, the only kingdom in England to successfully hold its own against the Viking invasions. Alfred is a proud and pious man who is beset on all sides, not only by the Vikings, but by people within his own court who would rather see another in power. We already knew that King Alfred was going to be a major player. He was in the very first cinematic trailer. But I wanted to pause to focus on this faction. We see this king kind of sitting in the chair. Their colors are some sort of orangey yellow and maybe red as well. It's hard to tell, but this flag right here is very closely associated with Mercia. So I'm assuming these are representatives from Mercia, another player that's just not mentioned in the narration in this trailer. Darby had a lot more to say about the Sons of Ragnar. These are Viking invaders who claim to be the sons of the legendary Ragnar Lothbrok, a Viking king who was killed by the Mercian king Ella almost a decade earlier. The Sons of Ragnar, Eivor, Ubba, and Halfdan have been in England over 5 years now, vowing revenge on the kingdoms and men who murdered their father. Each of the Sons of Ragnar has a unique and compelling personality. Eivor is wild and unpredictable, a fading rock star. Ubba is stalwart and steady with dreams of a pacified England for Danes and Saxons alike, and Halfdan is a kingly figure, wise, powerful, and yet paranoid that all his earthly gains will come to nothing in the end. Clearly, Valhalla is leaning on the history, the historical figures. We know that Ragnar's sons were involved in some form or another with the great heathen army, and they formed one faction, at least in Valhalla, called the Sons of Ragnar. It'll be fascinating to see how Eivor can navigate this conflict, whether he can resolve for peace with these guys, or if he'll have to take them down. I'm sure it'll be a little bit of both. When asked how alliances will work in Valhalla, Darby said that they're governed by the stories that they tell, not by any game system. There's some variability in which alliances Eivor can make, but they're largely fixed by the stories that they are telling. And this is, of course, a historical game. Again, tons of insight here. I really do want to spend more time on it, but we're going to move forward with the trailer.
I do not fear these men, nor any others who would harm us. These lands bring our people hope. I will do whatever it takes to make England our home.
In this section, we see some beautiful shots. Stonehenge right there, some castles in the distance. This is a really gorgeous game, and it's shown off in full view here. As Eivor raids a monastery, we hear that he's fearless. He does not fear these men. It's pretty much something we expected from him. I love this little sequence here. We see a little bit of verticality on the roof, as well as Eivor taking down what looks like a tougher enemy with the hidden blade. From my demo in July, I got to experience what it feels like to use the hidden blade. It's basically a quick time event where you have to press the button at just the right time in order to execute a one-hit kill, yes, even on bosses. Eivor says he'll do anything for his people, and we see the results of that. Some partying, drinking games, some dancing going on, some cheering with the whole crew. I wanted to take a closer look here because I believe this is the settlement. This is Ravensthorpe. We saw it earlier in this footage here. It looks like an evolved version of what they showed off in this time lapse. From this footage, you can see the name Ravensthorpe at the top, but also the docks are positioned in the exact same way as this shot here. So once again, I think this is our settlement.
The Saxons hunger for Norse blood. Let's give them a taste, brothers.
Clearly, Eivor is still a Viking. He is still going after those battles with the Saxons, and he's not afraid to do it. We see him fighting this double eagle Mercia faction again that I named earlier, but a lot of cool combat sequences are here. Like the spear finisher looks so cool. It reminds me of all of the great combat that I experienced when I got to play the game in July.
These conquests have given you a home, but there is more to this land, Eivor. A darkness unseen, an unknowable threat. One bound to England's destiny and to yours.
Okay, a lot to unpack here, but if you don't have goosebumps, I don't know what will give them to you. We hear from Basim talking about Eivor, all of his victories, all of his conquests. That's great, right? He has a place for his people, but underneath it all is the Assassins-Templars conflict, or at this point, the Order of the Ancients versus the Hidden Ones. Basim is telling Eivor about the Order of the Ancients. We see this hooded figure with the Templar insignia. I don't know about you guys, but this is the kind of stuff I was waiting for, and it gets me so hyped to see what the connections are. Darby lends us some more insight from that interview. He says the Order of the Ancients are the Hidden Ones' current enemies in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. They have taken over England with the aim of spreading their retrograde views. We have taken great pains to dive deep into the beliefs of the Order of the Ancients in our game, beliefs that differ somewhat from the Templars as we know them today. So at the core of Valhalla is a story of how Eivor and Sigurd and the rest of their clan have a deep and permanent impact on the future of these two groups. Again, from the Codex Network on Twitter, we learned that this stone relief is actually in reference to the cult of Mithras. This is a mysterious Roman religion centered on the god Mithras, and we only really know about it because of these archaeological finds, these stone reliefs of that god Mithras jabbing a sword into a bull. Wikipedia says that the cult was centered in Rome, but it spread as far as Roman Africa and Numidia, and as far north as Roman Britain, and to a lesser extent in Roman Syria in the east. If you're like me, my mind is racing at the possibilities here. We knew that there were going to be a lot of Roman ruins. That's something that appeared in so many interviews ever since Valhalla was revealed. But now we know that Ubisoft used these very real archaeological findings to build out the story and the explanation behind the Templars, the Order of the Ancients, and their activity in England, in Britain. It's so exciting. From Darby's insights to what the Codex Network uncovered with the cult of Mithras, I am just chomping at the bits to learn more about where this story is headed, how it all connects, and I just cannot wait for more. Obviously, I'm just one person on the internet and I miss stuff all the time. So if you guys have any theories or things that I missed, share them in the comment section below for everyone else to read. Like I mentioned multiple times, there's more to that Darby interview, more we could dive into, but I want to save that for another video. So if you're not subscribed already and you want to learn more about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, please make sure you are, and also click that bell to receive live notifications whenever a new video goes up. Big thanks to my YouTube members, Bill, Grass, David, Casey, John, Kamal, Spyro, Tom, Jackie, Level 42, and Matthew. If you want to learn more about supporting me as a creator here on YouTube, check the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.